everyone, and welcome to another video in our Road to the World Champs series. This one will be me going through the massive weekend that I have had playing games. I attended Australia's largest team event, the Rune Axe Team Championships, and we did fairly well. So we ended up coming third, which was a fantastic result. Definitely played through some exceptional teams. And who made us fight for every single point. But it was an absolutely fantastic weekend. Huge shout out to my team for accompanying me. They were all awesome. And a massive shout out to my opponents as well. They were all absolute gentlemen, which made it for a fantastic weekend. But the whole weekend wouldn't have come together without Gabe and the Failed Charge guys. So a huge thanks to all of them. So, getting into the games. So I was still playing my Sylvaneth list. It's been built for a singles event, so it's a very generalist list. There's only kind of a few really bad matchups. So we very much just kind of kept me in the pocket to use to kind of counter any plays, mainly trying to protect our more skew lists. So we had an IDK, a Lumineth, and a Doc list. And myself and the Doc list were both very general, whereas the other two guys were fairly skew there to try and rig the matchups in our favour, kind of scare the opponents a bit. But our first round, I got into a Slanesh opponent. He was running Glutos, a Keeper, Be'lakor, a Demon Prince, and then a whole stack of Painbringers. His army was absolutely exceptional. The conversion work he did was absolutely insane, and he walked away with coolest army, which was 100% very much deserved. The game went fairly quickly. He was more there for hobby, so he wasn't really looking to kind of go and podium, so his list was kind of a little bit weaker than you would expect it to be, but he'd done that just to get the models that he wanted to like being able to convert up. So he pushed up very aggressively. I played very defensively. Didn't really give him much to engage with in the first couple of turns. Drycha bounced around the place, just eliminating entire units of Painbringers. And by the time he kind of engaged and hit my main block, I was able to get all of my Kurnoths into combat, and then they just absolutely wrecked face. So, and that was a really big win to me. But like I said at the start, he wasn't really gunning for the most competitive stuff. He was there to win hobby prizes, and he did an amazing job. If you go onto the Rune Axe page, there's some pictures up there, and it's absolutely exceptional. So, on to game two. My opponent was running Soulblight, and he was running Legion of Knight, I think it was, with Neferata, Manfred, zombie vamp on zombie dragon, another zombie dragon, and then a couple of units of just skellies. So this one was Nexus Collapse, which made it really interesting. I outdropped him, so I gave him first turn, deliberately scored underneath him, and took away his two kind of home objectives. But then he said he made a mistake, but I think he kind of did it on purpose. Threw a battle tactic away, and also didn't score. Only scored one objective in the next turn, so that because I already had two objectives, there was no way for me to underscore him going into the next round. So I scored a battle tactic, killed Manfred, I believe it was, and then got ahead. He removed my home objectives, and then from there it just kind of turned into a big grind over in the corner of the table, where the remaining objectives were. So it was a really tight game, only because we just decimated all the objectives very early. And yeah, it kind of ended up that when he removed the last objective, I still had a battle tactic to get and my grand strat. He got his last battle tactic, did a big risky play to deny my grand strat, but because of how I'd positioned, I denied his as well. So I took a very minor win in that game as well. Our round 3, I played against a Stormcast opponent, who I play almost every year at Rune Axe, so it's always good to get back for our once a year game. And he was running Astra Templars. He had a Star Drake, a big unit of Annihilators with hammers, Selly Prime, just a couple of small units of Liberators and Vanquishers. No, sorry, not Liberators, just Vanquishers. And some Vanguard Hunters to teleport around for battle tactics. So, really dicey game, really close in the center. I had Drycha out the front with Mystic Shield, Finest Hour, Shielding Swarm, just built to be the tank. And then she tanked the Storm Drake coming in and did a lot of work against him. I rolled really well for my sixes. Um, and because of that, I was able to kind of put him down despite him also then getting all his buffs on being so tanky. And then having like a 2-up ignoring 3 rend save with re-rolls. And yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous. Both of our kind of big centerpieces on how tanky we could make them. Um, excuse me. Um, After that, the Annihilators came down along with Selly Prime, and Drycha just continued to tank. My opponent had a bit of bad dice one turn. He slid his attacks to try and. I was ahead at this point, so he wanted to get back into it a bit. Split his attacks to try and do that, and it just failed there. So I ended up with a very big win in that game, which was good because the rest of my team didn't do so great. So my big win counteracted all their losses. So we got ahead in that round, only just. So our fourth round, I played against another Soulblight player again. He was running Legion of Night with Unrendable Zombie Dragon, Neferata, and then another Vamp Lord on Zombie Dragon, and then just some Wolves. This opponent I've played him a couple times before, and he's an excellent opponent, and it was a really tight game. He ended up getting the win by 6 points. Really tight game. I had a bit of bad luck on kind of one of my big turns when I went in. He had his Unrendable Zombie Dragon within 6 inches of my wood on 6 health. So I was like, cool, I'll go Eradicate Trespassers, try and kill that Zombie Dragon for my battle tactic. I had Drycha with her shooting attack, and then I had a unit of 3 kind of hunters with swords that were going to go in. And I was hoping to be able to just put enough mortals onto him to put him in the ground. Unfortunately, everyone kind of flubbed, and he stayed alive, he went next, killed some Kurnoth, healed back up and kind of made it impossible. So after that, it was kind of just going downhill from there. I did have a really fantastic turn early in the game, positioned my Kurnoth Hunters quite well at the front of my army, and had all my buffs on them. They copped the charge from both Zombie Dragons and Neferata, and I only lost 2, which is huge. He put like 1,500 points worth of attacks into my unit and barely did anything. So, but that really let me kind of swing it back. I managed to kill Neffy in kind of the following turns, and then from there he just slowly grinded me down. When I wasn't able to deal with that Zombie Dragon on that turn, it the game was sealed then. So, but that was definitely the kind of one of the tightest games that I played on the weekend. My opponent there is an absolutely exceptional player, and a really good person to play against as well. Like, we both played a really nice, clean game where we could just agree on stuff before it kind of became an issue. So at one point he charged. Drycha was in combat with one Zombie Dragon. He charged the other Zombie Dragon in. We'd already kind of measured out that he was out of combat range for some Kurnoth that I was using to kind of try and screen him out a little bit. And then when it came around to the combat phase, and with Drycha's turn, because the models had been bumped a little bit and they were both on angles, it looked like I could pile in away from him to force him into the Kurnoth Hunters. So I just checked, and it's like, oh, hey, how far was this guy meant to be away from Drycha? He's like, oh, he's meant to be here, we've just bumped him in. Because we could we were playing kind of intent a lot, where we can go and kind of say, cool, the intent is this guy goes in here, he's just out of here, he's closer than this. Makes it really nice and clean and easy to be able to make sure that both players know exactly what's going on and how the game's going. Then my final game of the weekend was against a Nighthaunt player. Once again, another great guy. Like, everyone that I played over the weekend was great. This last guy, he did get my best sports because it was an absolutely fantastic game. He had a Linda, Kurdos, a whole stack of Blade Geist Revenants, and then just the whole smattering of heroes to keep them alive for the -1 to wound from the spell. -1 damage, the +1s to hit, returning models, just the whole kind of the little castle that you build. Um, this last one was limited resources, and he did make a mistake. He capped all 4 objectives kind of in the middle and on his side on his first turn. So I played very defensively, didn't go anywhere near them, and let him kind of tap them out. So then from there, I could then just play a kind of a scoring game because he would then have a lot of difficulty with scoring any objectives. So I managed to kill his big block of blade guys down to one model left 3 times. But then he kept his positioning was impeccable. One time I got him down to 1, and I still had my Kurnoth's stomps. But he was able to position and he pulled the models away. So that was one that was an inch away from all the Kurnoths that basically hit the unit from 3 sides. So he very much knew what he was doing, and it was an excellent game as well. But he made that misplay early, and then I kind of capitalized on that. So the second Soulblight game into Legion of Blood with the Unrendable Zombie Dragon was my only loss for the weekend, which was really good from my perspective, just on my personal play. I was very happy with how I played. Didn't make many mistakes, and the mistakes that I did make are kind of just I was a little bit tired, or I took the bigger risk. I could have gone for the safer play. And they're the risks that you want to do, or you kind of are acceptable in a team's environment, where you've got your teammates to kind of counteract the big wins or the bigger losses. So a lot of the mistakes that I made were kind of not mistakes, but kind of conscious choices. I went for the riskier plays or the bigger plays earlier in the game, because if I could get them off and pull them off, I can then go and tell my team, hey, I've got a really big win here. You guys can just play safe, especially with the generalist list. If I can do that to kind of mitigate, we got one round of quite bad matchups. We just made a mistake with how the process worked, and because of that, we lost that round. That was our 4th round, and those were the guys that eventually won the event as well. But they were all absolutely exceptional players. And when we drew them as part of the matchup, we knew that was it, kind of our round 5. These guys are the top dogs. But yeah, so it was a fantastic weekend. Really happy with how I played, really happy with how the team played. And one of the other big takeaways that I had from the weekend was how I did all my matchups. Not the matchup process itself, because we did get that wrong, but the matchups in terms of the games that I said were going to be quite tight were quite tight. The games that I said, well, I was going to get a big win, I did get the big win. So that's good, kind of good little ego boost to know that I can properly assess kind of what a list can do and where its threats are. So apart from that, this will probably be my second last video in the series. I've got one more next week just before we fly out, and then I've got the series itself. So I'll do a review of the kind of how it all goes, and hopefully people tune in and are entertained by that. But I know I've been talking with some of the other Australian guys, and we're looking at doing kind of a bigger kind of combined video on one of the other channels. That should be really awesome for all of us to get on that. So other than that, if you've been enjoying this series so far, make sure to like and subscribe, or leave a comment if you've got any kind of last minute questions of what I've been doing to prep or what I'm expecting from the event. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Bye.